That's the thing. We base our narrative out of fear. And it's sometimes it's not about that. Up to everybody. Everyone for me is a vessel of inspiration. And be fearless, man, because there's a lot of obstacles that you'd have to go through, but it's part of the alchemy of life. Like I made history last year, like winning like a contest called Ultimate X like 2 years straight in a row, or even just being able to go to Rome on 2021 and also like placing the highest like any African has ever placed.
Pay me what you owe. Feeling I'm ready for harvest. Niggas reaping what you sow. I'ma go get it regardless. 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 Living the life of an artist. Pay me what you owe. Feeling I'm ready for harvest. Niggas reaping what you sow. I'ma go get it regardless. 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 My hustle is one you can fathom.
So Khule Ngubane, hey bro, this has been quite phenomenal so far. I've been enjoying the conversation.
Wow, bro. It actually started when I was 14. So 2 years into skating and some change, I was dominating like the local skate scene, like Tegwin in Durban. And yeah, next thing, like start skating these contests called the Boogaloo's Jam. And of course, they'll have like more competitions in Gateway. For example, there used to be a skate park corner. You know, aside from the one of the pavilion contest that I spoke about, where I was able to just get some deals off the bat from just skating that event. And yeah, man, killed that. And yeah, first time getting it by 14 years old, out of my own hustle. So,
what's
the how? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess hindsight, it's them not thinking like of anything other than education or just like keeping your head straight on that. Yeah. But this thing is starting to be lucrative in a way that okay, Sandy is okay, I see me again. And yeah, I was able to go. Yeah. And yeah, that was also an eye opener. I've been to Joburg countless of times prior to that. But that just made me like solidify my place in like, okay, this thing is for you. You go, boy.
That's right. Especially if you start experiencing different things that you would have never thought could happen to you, especially in a sport that, like you had said, you started it off because of the environment that you were in, right? And then you began to start, enjoying it more. Then eventually you became the professional that you are. So I think that is so beautiful. Talking about a bit of professionalism and stuff like that, I've always wondered. I think I've also spoke to MX. Oh, I'm so sorry. I spoke to MX about this one. A lot of people would look at sports skating like, okay, financially, like what could you do with imali skating? They don't really see that you could build something sustainable with such a sport, and for you to So I think I'm assuming that was something that your parents were worried about. So financially, did you think about the financial aspect of skating, or were you just doing what you love and then you were just so shocked about how much you could get, or how much you can get rather from the sports list?
Well, being at that age, a low 14 and whatnot, like you're not really thinking about necessarily long term. I didn't even know if I wanted to do this thing long term, because now I was very good at other sports, like I said, Ebola, basketball as well. So it was more like of just wanting to get out of negativity and finding a sense of belonging. And I think because I just put my head down, and also just like domestic things, like everyone grows up a bit different. So I also had my domestic issues growing up, and skating was more of a therapeutic thing for me to be able to do, to also mainly get out of like the troublesome situations, of like township living, or like and things like that. Just made me feel a belonging. And then as I got older, of course I started to think about those things. But when I was younger, it was more like, I just want to be put on for this thing. I believe I'm talented enough to pursue it. And also, I always had that dream of like, yo, you can make it overseas with this thing. You then never know where it can take you. Just because, that's the one thing that we do as African parents. We might see a child that is talented at something, but not really pay attention. You know, whereby like you look at white families or other races, they'll be like, oh, this 7-year-old seems to like guitar a lot. Let's actually buy him a guitar. Yeah. Or like piano. Okay, let's take him to piano schools. And by the time that their age, at like 14, 15, 16, told us they're making money out of it. So I think like that's the thing. We base our narrative out of fear. And it's sometimes it's not about that. It's not just about, you're not just put on earth just to get a job and make money and then wait till you're married, have kids, and then die eventually.
Yep. Speaking of, sorry, you touched on or going overseas. Do you remember how old you were when you first got that opportunity? Like, okay, Pipets, and where did you go? I mean, I've never been overseas, so it's like, yeah, I Mozambique, Swaziland. I
love that you said that, because like, what do you base overseas as? Like, because you know, like,
yeah, it's over the seas, right?
Then when I was 19, I started traveling all over Africa, which was very like interesting. About like getting to see places like, of course, Mozambique, or I can say going even Central Africa, Kenya, going all the way to even to Senegal, Dakar. You know, so I think that was the stepping stone, and I'm glad I got to travel Africa first, because the one thing that we all want to do is just like go to Europe or go to the States, and that's cool, but I think it's also good to know your culture and where you come from, the roots. And one thing was fascinating, for example, I was chilling with Khule Jones. I don't know if people know him, but he's like a big rapper in Kenya, like he's one of the OGs. And the same word that they use for water, in here, and like in Zulu, amans, they have the same word, amans. So like being able to see that, like, whoa, like seeing the connection with like just the migrations of Africans prior, it just like was mind blowing. But yeah, and then like towards 2021, that's when I started leaving, and yeah, went to States straight. That was pretty big, going to places like Tampa, California, just to mention a few places in the States. But I really liked that, like the vibe. Of course, yeah, Barca, that was also like, you know, not too far from that afterwards. And then that started becoming like quite a consistent thing that I was doing because of events and stuff like that. But yeah, Barca is also nice. I really enjoy Barcelona.
That's nice. That's nice. I mean, who knew?
Who knew, right?
I'm saying for the skateboard. So what has been, or who has been your biggest influence?
My biggest influence in skateboarding. Funny enough, these people happen to be people that I know personally. Like, of course, one is Tony Hawk. Another one would be like, you know, TJ Rogers end up being a good friend of mine, or Ryan DeCenzo, or Tori Padwell, or legends like Day One Song, and I actually skate for their company, which is called Thank You Skateboards. So it's amazing how things can come full circle, and these are just like a few people that I can think of in the top of my head, but there's been plenty other legends like throughout the phases of my life being a skateboarder that I was inspired by. And Futsaganzega, like you can even be inspired by just a little kid trying and just reminding you of where you started, and like, you know, even though they look up to you, it's like you respect that, like, yo, they're really skating their hearts out, trying this trick. And so I look up to everybody. Everyone for me is a vessel of inspiration, because if you kind of limit yourself and have tunnel vision on that, then you miss out on the magical experience of life, because life is always trying to teach you something.
That's true.
What can you say? This is just interesting, because Nyakumbola, like, when you were traveling, going abroad, there was like a lot of support, like just maybe on a community level, like, Khule Ngubane, I'm saying, you've experienced a bit of fame, so to speak.
True.
And a lot of people maybe want to get into this because of that aspect of it, where it appeals to the ego. But I'd actually really like you to highlight maybe how lonely this is, because it's like you don't really have a office job, so to speak, or no one knows how lonely it is. Can you talk more to that, because I think it's quite important?
Yeah, it is quite important. And as much as like, yes, there's a glamorous side, people always tell me, hey man, you lucky, like I have to do a certain job and you out here living your dream, but it does get lonely. Because why? Like my life is not based on a certain consistency with the people that I'm around, whether it be family, whether it could be a significant other, or maybe obligations that I'd want to make for my community, what's around me, because I always have to travel. Every other month I'm traveling. So it does get lonely, and also being able to mentally adapt to new environments all the time. You know, you jet lagged from like, you know, a 23-hour flight, excluding delay and stuff like that, and now you have to tap into that new environment, and you have to adjust to those different cultures or those different mindsets and personalities. So it does get lonely because like I don't have that consistency. But what keeps me going, I'd say, as a person is just like, yo, remember why you started this. You know, so I'm very goal orientated because of that. It's like, yes, it does get lonely, but at the same time I think everything comes with pros and cons. You know, so for me to have these blessings that everyone aspires to be like, there's also going to be that little bit of a dark side where like, okay, maybe I don't have such a personal life that I feel like I'm in control of, because I'm obligated to do what is my calling, my gift, or whatever. Even if you say, well, this guy worked hard towards it, but now that bed is set, I can't lay in any other bed. I have to stick to that. So for me, I just choose to be goal orientated.
So what are some of the things that you do to make yourself comfortable with all the changing environments that you find yourself in? And how do you also preserve relationships?
I have to stay open-minded, because like my life, literally, like this month you can see me here. Next 2 months I'm in another country living a different experience. So I never know where life is going to take me. So the only thing I can do is be neutral and actually adapt. That's how I maintain it. Adapt. And even when it comes to relationships, they have to be kind of open. It's not like I'm a playboy type. Kind of open of like, yo, okay, I can be true to you, but also I don't need you fucking up my mind when I'm like overseas and I have to compete in a contest and you worrying me about attention now. Because that's also going to mess with me emotionally. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, you're not calling me much, you're not doing this, but I'm skating. And by the time, like, let's just say, okay, we start a film session from 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm only going to be back like as the sun sets, around like 6 or 7. Sometimes in Europe it's even towards like 9 or 10 in the evening, because the sun sets at a different, like, you know, pace. So it does get hard, because by that time I also just want to plug off. But I'm also in the environment of the people that I'm around. I also have to be accommodating to that space. So it gets very hard on relationships. I always say from the get-go, in the beginning, listen, this is the type of lifestyle that I live. Not that I endorse it, but it's just my reality. So if you can try to be understanding enough, because Nami, as a human being, you also want that love and whatnot. You know, like you also feel things. So it's very important for me.
Especially when these verified accounts are sliding.
What is understanding? How do you fit into a relationship, especially with the schedule that you have, you know?
Understanding, like, okay, there's going to be, okay, if I'm in the city, let's just say I'm dating a girl from Durban. If I'm in the city, okay, 2 months, I can be with you like every other day. Like if after like skating, clapping out, you've done work or whatnot, we can hang, we can kick it, because like my job is I get paid when I create. Do you know what I'm saying? And then the rest is just like practicing, and it will show on contest day if I was not ready. So I always make sure my practice is right. And then when it gets to the traveling part, because sometimes I'll be going, let's just say I'll go to Moscow, Russia, a place that I've been to. I know a lot of people have never been to Russia or anything like that. I'll go for a contest, but because it's such a long trip that's there, I'm gonna probably stay extra like 3 or 4 weeks, so that we can do like what's bigger than the contest in skateboarding. There's also the stuff that you see us filming in the streets that also like plays a part. So the contest is a way to kind of make it up the ladder a bit faster, and then like the rest is like, no, you putting in the work in the streets and make a project, like how artists will make an album or a mixtape. And that's going to require me to be in that city, because there's videographers, there's filmers, we got to get content, we represent brands, and that's where in a relationship it gets very draining, you know, because I'm out there all day. This is like physical labor, what I'm doing, you know, so it gets very hard for someone to understand. In the beginning, it's like, oh, great, wow, you do that. Oh, Mr. Pro Skater, I'm with the Pro Skater, it's so dope. And they see the lifestyle, they see what that lifestyle can provide, and it's epic. Like I know a lot of entertainers as well, go to cool parties. There's always good events and stuff like that. So it is a wow factor. But when it comes to when I have to work, that's where I think like there's a disconnect. And it's not that like I'm a guy that's like, no, I want to go gallivant and like cheat or like see other women. No, it's not that. I'm purely working.
Even if you want to gallivant and cheat, that's fine, my nigga.
I'm not trying to put that out there.
But now, who is Khule without the skateboard? Is there ever a time where you just put down a skateboard and just, enjoy yourself without that part of you?
Yes, there has to be, because I think like skateboarding is a part of my life, but it's not my life. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I do. That's what I chose to do. There's other things I'm into, like I record music. There's different facets of myself as well. Like I'm very into spirituality, getting to align myself energetically and all these things. Like, we all have different gifts and different facets, but most people will never get to see that until they get to know me personally. So for me, when I unplug from the world, and especially because I'm always absorbing different energies, different vibes, I have to also have that time alone, and to process, mainly to process, because like life is just moving at such a fast pace. Like, each day they wake up doing this, out this day. Like there has to be a time where as we're like, okay, what did that mean? I met that person, we had this conversation, I went there. What does it mean for me as an individual? And that's where I find my parts and where I grow as an individual. Being conscious of how I move.
Bro, I need this. So, I know you personally. I'm a fan of your work, etc., etc. Here's what I need you to do, bro. Here's what I need you to do.
Bro,
I want you to give people watching, Andile, Big Lou, all of us, because we're in tune, we're in this moment. AWUBANIKE 16 it, dog, about like from any one of your verses that actually mean something to you. Because what I also don't fucking like is a lot of us as artists or musicians, we only get celebrated once we're gone. It's like, oh snap, this nigga could do this, or that's when we appreciate people, and I don't think that's cool. So I don't want to put you under pressure, but I know how dope you are. I know how dope you are, for real. Like even on the freestyle, making it up. But just it could be an intro, it could be any one of the 16s, and just go through it so people can actually hear what's going on and what you're saying in your music. Come on, dog. It's not that crazy.
Okay. Alright, let's go. I guess we'll do it a cappella. Out of this earth like an ET. Show my talents on the EP. Diamond flows under pressure. Got knowledge like he's a professor. I'm always standing on my own too. Show you everything I go through. I want it now more than ever. And every record getting better. Cause Khule is a lyrical shaman. Growing my dress like a jarman. But I'm far from a rock star. More or less of a rock star. Then that's the time if you can't afford it. If I get a pregnant bitch, you won't abort it. Changing my stars in the orbit. Big pockets like Norbit. Model chick in the bikini. Niggas salute when they see me. Kids say they wanna be me. Cause wishes come true with no genie. I never needed your permission. Hard-headed, never listen. Khule like to do his own thing. Frank Casino want the whole thing. Let's go.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that music is on Spotify.
Yeah. So I think like that's the balance that I have with skateboarding. Because skateboarding, you basically are mute. People feel your energy and whatnot, and like being amazement of like the threshold that you can have to push your body. But I also like to show the intellectual side of myself. That also like, yo, we have a story. Skaters get groupies too, by the way.
When you skate, you're listening to music most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, definitely. But also it's been a bit of a half and half. I think I like to practice with music just to get into that zone and not really worry about like, oh, my body's getting tired or like people watching. But I also like, I used to when I was younger listen to more music and contests, but now I actually like to feel the crowd's energy. I like that like intense feeling, like where they call your name up and say, yo, you got 60 seconds, put down your best ish right here, right now, and you just hear the crowd, like you're like, okay, heart's beating fast, and you're able to tap in.
Could you say that skating is like a form of art?
It is.
Is it? Why would you say that?
Because, for example, I'll give you a trick, a kickflip. Right now, there's 4 of us in the room. We could all do that trick, but we do it a different way. Could be like just the way that you learned how to do the trick. It won't all look the same, but it'll still be the same trick. So it is art. It's like asking an artist to paint or draw something or sketch it. Everyone might sketch the same thing, but they won't have the same formula. But they're still getting to the conclusion of like, okay, we all did the same thing. So I'd say that's why it's art. And that's why our trick selections differ. Some people like more technical side of skating, where you skate like benches or like the freestyle type of thing. We're doing tricks on the flats, and then you're gonna get vert skaters that are just flying up, and that's what everyone gets amazed by. But those guys go up down. Whereby I'm a street skater, we go down like handrails, what you guys walk on and stairs. We go down those things. And so I think skating is very artistic in that way. It shows different facets of the sport itself.
So you're a street skater, all right? And you're talking about going down Ama rails. So talking about going, mini rail. Now have you ever found yourself like in a compromising position, such as like being injured? And why would you get up and do it again? I mean, so why would you get up and do that again? What part of you is just like, no, it's fine. This is just something that I can sort out in a few weeks, and then I'm going to go back. Same rail.
It also goes within like battling your own psyche. I find like that's why for me skating, as much as the sport's also very spiritual, teaches you about life. In essence, people in life try something once or twice and say it's not for me. Skateboarding, you're trying this thing 100 times, you eventually make it for you. And I think that's the beauty in that, like whereby, like you're saying, a rail, I'll get to an idea, I'm like, oh, I think you go from, it's possible to do this. I think I could do this. And to getting close, like, oh, I actually can do this. And then, like, for example, as you're skating a rail, you start to feel it, like, okay, I've got the motion. And then you just have that slam. And now, like, your whole perception just gets warped. You look at this thing like, actually, do I really want to go at this again? You know, exactly what you're talking about. And still like finding that courage. So it's like, it's alchemy. It's like turning lead into gold, and you're finding that courage. And I feel like if everyone took that skater's mentality towards life, they'll be indestructible at whatever they do. So for me, that's what I like about it. It's taught me to be fearless. I think like, but by saying that, like, it's not like I don't have fear. I get shit scared every day of doing this. But I believe without fear, you would never understand what courage is.
That's true.
So it teaches me that on a daily, and then I start, because now I made that a part of me through skateboarding. Now it's in every facet of my life. To be fearless or courageous, to build up that stamina and realize, things are going to take time. You have to keep applying yourself, and not every try is going to be the same. Like, I could have a try where I felt like that and I got scared, and next thing, because of that, so much adrenaline's pumping and there's extra focus, and next thing I landed, and you think, he just did that like it's nothing. Meanwhile, you didn't see that take before where I fell on my ass.
Some of the injuries you've had?
Yeah, have you broken anything? That was actually a question.
Skater's worst fear, but like you go through it. I've dislocated my arm when I was younger. I think like when I was 13. That was the first big injury. I've fractured my left ankle twice. I feel like every injury is serious. Of course, I've had like occasional sprains and stuff like that, but ones that were major when I was like 13 years old, dislocated my left arm. I've fractured my left ankle twice. My right one, I've done it once. I think like the most craziest injury that I did have, I was messing around though, like on a trampoline where you take off the wheels of the bike. We call it tramp biking, and I was doing like a 360 whip, and Gandhi, I'm gonna have a bad situation where like I misjudged like where I was gonna land, and I jumped and I fell knee first into broken tiles, and I tore my cartilage, and like literally there was such a big hole on my bone. I could see the bone inside. So that was a bit like, whoa, that's heavy. That scared me. I was like, man, I wasn't even skating and I've hurt myself like that. Like, is this gonna mess up my career? And yeah, like it took me like a good like 10 months to recover from that. So that was the most serious injury.
And I know this is a bit weird, but like, how's obviously when you're healing and stuff, umzimba wakho utreatsa kanjani? I know you're very specific ngezinto edlayo. Talk us through, like, how does nutrition actually affect your body?
It does, man. Like, the stuff is, you have to look at it holistically. If I'm working on my body, the body being the temple, it's like a car. Like, if you're driving a diesel car and you're putting unleaded on it, like, you're gonna screw yourself over. But at the same time, like, skateboarding does have a bit of a rebellion type of lifestyle. So like for me, if I know, okay, we're gonna go on tours, there's gonna be a lot of beers, people like drinking and stuff like that, even while people are skating, which is wild. So like for me, I used to be like vegetarian, like full on, like just that type of diet. So if I wake up, I'm having fruits in the morning, lots of water, of course, like do my meditations and prayers just to get my mind, body and spirit in tune, and like then I can carry on with the day and then have something more like solid. I'd say around about like 12-1, just to give the right nutrients. It was never about like consumption of big foods. It was about like what I'm putting in my body, because I'm working with my body. Yeah, so that's how I'd say I take care of my diet. And still to this day, we're like, yeah, I'm technically speaking OG skateboarding, but I still look like a young buck, so it's done well.
I'm not sure if I'm going to phrase this right, but I'm just curious as to what is the life expectancy of a skater? Judging by the injuries, judging by the lifestyle, so on and so forth.
It's very complex. It just depends on how you live your life. I think like nowadays you're getting guys like, for example, that like Guy Mariano, this guy's like US legend. He's in his 40s, he's still killing it. Tony Hawk is like 50 something and he's still skating. So it's about like, I guess, getting lucky enough to not get injured long term, where like you can keep this thing going. So you can go as hard as you want. But of course the young bucks have like, you know, more stamina, more energy, and like the risk factor, because that like I think as you get older as well, you're like, I know it feels like to be on the bench and not like, you know, skating and stuff like that, so you take less risks. But by that time you should have already been established enough in skateboarding to have started your own business, or like been whatever thing to kind of keep you going, where you can still do it as a sport to just keep yourself fit or still be part of the community.
So what I'm interpreting from what you're saying is age is just a mere number.
Yeah, it's just a mere number.
Dependent on mhlambe how you got in and how deep this passion is. And for you, it's like, we're going to keep going until we keep going. Yeah. There's no actual limit.
Exactly, because like, for example, one of my homies that I mentioned, Ryan DeCenzo, he's like 35. I think he's gonna turn 36 this year. He's still like whipping these young kids, like no jokes. So it's about you, and like I said, injuries and taking care of your body. Skaters nowadays, like there's been a culture change where like skaters nowadays are athletes.
Okay.
You know, I think back in the day it was more like, yo, you just focused on like, okay, I'm talented enough, and then it was like, yo, you get one clip here. A clip is basically like a skate trick that you've done for the day. Maybe that's a banger. You're like, oh, let's go binge drinking for the next 3 days. The next thing they're hungover for another week. Then they get back at it again. And that type of lifestyle does not last long. So you have to just tell yourself, okay, if you've made this part of your life and you want to keep going, then you also have to just like take care of that. Like, don't be boozing. Don't be out there partying all the time. Take care of your body. Go to gym. You know what I'm saying? So that also your body's strong enough to handle that, because like it's you jumping down big obstacles, and if you're not fit enough, you could like snap your ACL or something like that. So being fit does help with having less injuries and being more prepared while you practice at a skate park. So when you do take it on the streets, that you know it's like, okay, margin for error is much less.
Yeah.
So I'll say it on your behalf, but so stop fucking asking like, why am I still doing this? So we're gonna keep going until we keep going. I'm gifted. Umzimbo savuma. You know, no, sorry, dog. I know you don't like talking your shit, but like sometimes you gotta let them know. Ukuthi noma ngina-90 amandla mesakhona nothando lisakhona usazoqhubeka. So I think because I know like whenever we roll, like there'll be people like, you still doing that? It's like, bro.
Yeah, I know, right? The other day, that was trippy. Like, yo, you still skate.
I'm still doing it.
Like,
I'm that good, you know, like,
you know, like at the end of the day, like the sponsors are still out here supporting me. I'm still like placing in contests. Like I made history last year, like winning like a contest called Ultimate X, like 2 years straight in a row. And
no one's done that.
Yeah, hopefully this year I get to make it a 3-peat. or even just being able to go to Rome on 2021 and also like placing the highest like any African has ever placed against like the best skateboarders on the planet. So yeah, I still have to keep going. So I feel like I still got another like 10 years in me. But at the same time, I'm also not just focusing solely on being an athlete.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like I always made a promise to myself, at least by max, like 35, dog. Like for me to be like, yo, I'm not trying to get like a 17-year-old's paycheck or doing what I do. Let them shine. But at the same time, if kids ain't stepping up their game and sponsors need me around, then I'm gonna be around.
Yeah.
You know. But now I'm more business orientated. I'm more like, you know, like structuring it differently. Like I said, with entertainment, with showing people showing them my lifestyle, because I feel like I am a unique individual, grew up different, and have a lot to offer to the world beyond sports, but also on the intellectual property side of myself.
Oh, that's nice. Let's go on the lighter side of things. Tell us a bit about your style. Does your career or skateboarding rather influence the way that you dress?
Definitely. I think like what influences your dress culture, especially here in SA, of course, like hey, being a black brother, I like hip hop, you know, so I'm gonna have that drip. I was also into basketball growing up, so I was always into the whole hip hop culture, you know. I was never the skinny jean, rock and roll type of guy, because I was not influenced by that. Maybe I would have rocked that stuff if I grew up in the burbs at a very young age and like only chilled with my white friends, but I was very diverse. So like my type of style, it's always been based on like hip-hop influence. I would just say like, yeah, pretty much that's it.
Okay, tell me about your closet. Okay, what could I find? Top 10 things that are your favorites. Items that I'm like, okay, Abola, this is me. This is my style.
Okay, first of all, you're going to find a Monster cap at the top. Shout out Monster. And then when it comes to the drip, I'm rocking this French brand called Chaka. Going down from the tees, Chaka makes amazing clothing. Chaka is actually this awesome French brand that sponsors me. Shout out to Aurelian, the boss man that does that thing. And just like for me, it was always about expanding, because you talk about like how skateboarding, like starting from here, but at the same time, international level. So like I also have international sponsors, and of course Thank You would be my skateboard, and on my feet you would find some Converse shoes, also signed the deal with Converse. Yeah man, my all star.
When did you join them? Last year, right?
And so yeah man, last year.
Damn bro, speak on that.
Yeah. Nah, they've been really like super welcoming and feels like a family, part of the team. And of course, there's still a lot of growth that we're going to show, that we're going to be doing together, but that's been a new venture I've been excited about. And I don't want to talk too much about what we're going to do, but it's going to be a really epic thing. I think people are used to a certain sponsor that I had for 13 plus years, and I just felt like it's time for change. You know, like just to elevate and just work with people that are still inspired by the skating forefronts and like my talent and like my vision of where I want to go for it. And yeah, and of course some accessories. I'm a guy who likes to rock watches, jewelry, rings, a lot of bandanas as well, I think you'd find. And they also help, just like it, because when I skate, the hair sometimes gets all up in my face. But yeah, other than that, like I don't know what else to tell you about accessories, but that would just be top 10 of things that I can think about that I'll be going out.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like I see, like yeah, you're killing the skating, but I also see you, and I could be wrong, ungasho now. Like I see like acting, modeling. Like I'm seeing a lot of that. What are your thoughts on that? Like because you speak on expanding and maybe going into different territories with showing lifestyle. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, like definitely, like I've done some modeling stuff in the past. I could see myself doing that. Definitely acting. I think like I've always liked being in front of the camera. I feel very comfortable being in front of the camera. I feel like I'm articulate enough. Even you can tell by this podcast, by the way that we're speaking, that like, nah, like this guy should also, his story should be heard. So I also want to go beyond the scenes or doing that maybe on a autobiography nyana mixed with a little bit of acting in it, like, you know, because I'm still fresh enough, you know, to show myself like as myself. But definitely see myself doing that. And of course musically, trying to elevate in that, will elevate in that. It's about, you know, the words that you put out in the universe and what you get back and the belief that you have behind it. So I definitely see myself in entertainment. If it's not skateboarding, it's also just like helping the youth develop that talent. I'm always in love with being around creatives, you know what I'm saying? I'm not such a rigid person that has to be like, yo, this is my only way by maybe a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think like also chasing your dreams is something that's worth living. Otherwise, to die without regret is a lot of people, like Yabashale on the big time. So like I always feel like now skating is my 9 to 5, but I'm also working towards other things on the side.
Something that I'm really curious about is, has Umaspala been involved in any of maybe your projects or your growth in the space, especially because they really speak upon developing a youth in the creative space or whatever ventures that someone a young person wants to possibly aspire to be something or wants to create something, and so on and so forth. So has Umaspala waseThekwini government, have they ever been a part of Khule esimbonayo manje, you know?
Hey guys, sadly no. I think like skating is not like to them something that's looked over as like it's a community, it's an industry and whatnot. Oh, maybe skaters have not reached out. I've not had anything like help from Maspala besides me like being able to like elevate myself within the skate realm, and then like have some sponsors, because of course social media gets to show you, or I've been on television, whatnot, but they've personally not reached out. Maybe there could be a venture that I try to reach out. I'm not trying to put bad on Umaspala or anything like that. Government, especially right now, for example, I'll give you something that people don't know. Skateboarding is an Olympic sport. It's official.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So
no
which is so
idea.
sad, right?
I had no
so
idea.
that's why I have my own NGO, which is called Back to the Roots, where like it started in 2017, where like I do my own events and give bags and skate clinics with contests and try to give, like, you know, to the youth that other option that, oh dog, especially in the township and underprivileged areas, you don't have to clearly baller, make it as a soccer player out of the hood. There's things like skateboarding. They can show you the world. They can enlighten you with different races, you know, with different walks of life that will internally as will make you perceive life differently, and you can grow. And we get out of these social vibes that we are on of like, nah, that's a white man's sport, when it's not. It's just that like black people have not been exposed. There's lack of knowledge and exposure. So that's been like one thing I've been carrying on my back to be able to do, and hopefully it can reach Umaspala. Maybe right now by doing this I can show them. They're like, yo, we need your help, guys. It's like, you know, you can be the next cast out on a skateboard.
I was going to say, as on that point, it's quite interesting ngoba mengicabanga sisa manje like ngomculo bakhona abaphumelelayo to like take over Hollywood, ngama actor, you know, you see people from abafana nathi making it on those levels, but then when it comes to like skating ngempela, it's like there hasn't been that breakthrough of like umuntu omnyama taking over and dominating. So I do think it speaks highly, and since it is an official Olympic sport, ziningi izinto that we also should be doing, including celebrating what you're doing, no matter how small or big. And dog mina ngiyakufisela ukuthi nje uqhubeke nje uphumelele and keep taking it to the next level, because ekugcineni, bro, we're not going to wait like another 10 years for it to happen. It's like, nah, kuzokwenzeka, fanele kwenzeke manje, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that's the struggle with my generation of skaters right now, especially people of color, is that like, well, what music went through maybe like, let's say early 2010s, where like cats were barely making dough out of the stuff to be able to like buy the cars and whatnot that you've seen them be able to do now in the houses. That's the fight that we're fighting now. And even if it's not for my generation to enjoy, I feel like I've been pretty blessed enough. I've made a living out of skateboarding, you know, for over a decade plus. Been able to really change my family situation and my own life and affect my community in a positive way out of my own pocket. You know, so yes, like I feel like it can grow, but it just needs that community-based support. And right now, that's the problem with SA skateboarding. It's very segregated, not like because of your color or whatever, but like it's such a small pocket that like everyone is fighting for a meal instead of realizing, yo, it's a buffet out here. So when someone thinks the door's opening for Khule, they think it's closing for them. And because the industry is not big enough, it ends up being like, oh, there's only those guys that can be successful, you know. So like for me, it's about changing that narrative. Like, no, dog, we want to give back. We want to also like see other people be empowered by doing what they love. So I think the Olympic thing is a very big stature to put skateboarding on, so that it can allow that like thing where it's going to be a household, you know, sport. Yeah. Instead of being like, oh yeah, now I tried to skateboarding when I was younger, you know, and ended there. So now that parents can take it seriously, especially within our culture, people of color, because we really not exposed to it. People see it, but it doesn't really touch them as much as, like I said, soccer or music or whatnot. So like it's just about someone sacrificing. I always believe this as well. Like every generation has to fight for something that they won't live to enjoy. So maybe that's the basis that I'm on right now. You know.
Can you speak to a young 13-year-old Khule in a way that you would have wanted someone to speak to you, you know, while you were in the journey you started a journey that you didn't know would obviously bring you to this point. But I mean, I'm sure there were some things that you would have wanted someone to speak life into while you were still in that position as a 13-year-old Khule, as a 14-year-old Khule, going to a pavilion, walking back home, going back to a pavilion, go back home, having to hide yourself from your family.
Yo, what would I say to my 13-year-old self? Dwan, block it all out. You'll be alright. You'll be alright. Block it all out. I think like when I was younger, of course, that affected me a lot. You know, like any child, for them to be like, I don't know how I did it, like, but I guess I was always so driven, and also believe I have an old soul just trapped in a young person's body. So like I was very resilient, like to a point where you think Ekai would be like, I think I is a rebel. 13-year-old version of yourself, of course, says that blocking it out, and just realize that everything is just part of your story, man. The highs and the lows. Yes, at home they're not going to understand, but that's also natural. They also go through their things of how they've also been taught by the previous generations, you know, to how to articulate reality in a world that's ever changing. So that's what I'd also like highlight to myself, and be fearless, man, because there's a lot of obstacles that you'd have to go through, but it's part of the alchemy of life and initiating you into manhood, I would say, you know, and that's very important to really understand. So that's what I'd say to my 13-year-old self.
This is beautiful, bro. I actually love that be fearless part, because it's true, bro. It's true. You're going to go through these obstacles that are going to just fall. Like, I think you have to remind yourself every day why you do what you do, and I think that's beautifully said. Speaking of, bro, what you got coming up, dog? Like the stuff that you can share. What are you looking most forward to? What's exciting you that you can share?
Yeah, man, basically more travels overseas, of course, more projects with Monster Energy, Jacka, Thank You Skateboards. So like just expect to see me more on the international stage. Hey, I don't want to put too much out there for people, because there's a saying, like, if you just start to put your plans out here, sometimes that negativity that people can wish upon you can just like hinder it, you know, from succeeding. But just know, like, you'll see me more on the international stage, even within the music stuff. Expect more projects on that. Expect just like this face to keep popping up in everything, because I'm here to stay. It's been a long time coming, and also I'm just here to invoke the spirits within our people and where we come from, whereby like there's a lot of wasted potential that, like, yo guys, it's all part of the journey, and if Unkulunkulu is put in your heart, don't quit on it. Don't quit on it. Bro. Even if people don't resonate with what you're doing right now, you have to keep that self-belief.
1,000, and this is just a selfish question, but you are known, like I know you're close with you're close and familiar with the who's who in the industry. I'm thinking like guys like Deleuze, right?
Yeah.
Speedster. You were on the KO video as well. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah. So people must expect, because I feel like people see clips. Like,
yeah. I mean, Lockenville, Nasty C, there they go. Just to mention, like, and I mean, like, he's way out of here, man. Like, so I believe, like, as well, like, there's a saying like, show me your friends or show me people you hang with, and I'll know where you're going. So I feel like I've been blessed enough to have people like that have opened up their hearts to allow me to be around their space and also learn a lot. And yeah, man, that's why I feel like I'm built for greatness. I deserve greatness because I've also been through the struggle. It wasn't just like, all sunshine and rainbows to get here. And also that story is just like the dialogue to show people that, like, success, like Casper says, doesn't need a visa. You know what I'm saying? You can make it from wherever you come from as long as you're resilient and you stay true to yourself, and then the right energies will always align. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, yo, shout out to Stavi. Did you hear his new album?
Yeah, Smoko. Hey,
what do you think? Because I know you're close with SJAVA'S, right?
Yeah, dog. Hey, nigga, when do we understand with people? These are people that I've been blessed enough, like I said, to have come across. But I won't say I'm close to SJAVA like that. Like, these are people I've seen, like I said, that they've inspired. Like you mentioned, the KOs, like Ngiyabaz Noma E. Yeah, man, like I've been traveling or stilo. Like, I mean, like, yeah, a lot of powerful people. I don't want to mention, like, keep name dropping people and stuff like that. But blessed enough. I mean, like, even on the international stage, like the pro skaters that I know that I've been able to mention prior, like, are big deals. I'm talking about people with millions of followers, and they've been like welcoming me in their homes, or like when we chill out, especially when I'm overseas. So, like, yeah, I just see myself like being in that space, in that realm of, like, those people, like using them as not using them, but like using them as a reference of, like, okay, what's possible. Yeah.
Dog, you came a long way from Chesterville. It's the man, the legend, Khule Ngubane. Bro, where can they find you? Yeah, man, I think just plug your stuff, what you got going on, and where people can keep up with the journey.
Okay, of course, like there's Instagram at Khule Ngubane. You can check out, vibes. There's also YouTube. I don't have a TikTok, so don't expect no TikTok. Twitter, I'm also not so big on that. I'm more like even though I'm in a public eye, I'm low key, but I like to do stuff with like involving campaigns. So I'm always in a public eye where you're going to see this face. But if anyone's down to follow my journey, then so be it. If not, then I'm still going to keep doing me, because at the end of the day, that's all I can do. Yeah.
And any last words?
Definitely no more last words. But actually, there are a few last words that I have. Really appreciate you sharing such a huge part of yourself with us. Not only us, with the viewers. You have such an inspirational story, especially from where you came from. And you just make it feel that much closer, for anyone who is at that specific position that you were in, or any position actually, because I think there's parts of you which all of us could sort of relate to at every stage that you have been in life. So I think your story is absolutely amazing, and I know that it will inspire someone, and you have inspired a few people, especially with some of the campaigns that you're doing and how involved you are with the young ones, so that's absolutely beautiful. So I know you're going to be doing amazing things.
Yeah,
no, definitely. No, so I can't wait. Maybe like a couple months from now, when that journey is elevated, the things that we spoke about here, the things that I couldn't highlight fully, now I can be like, yeah, man, I'm that guy that did it. But everything in God's timing, and I'm a firm believer in that.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, guys.
Thank you, MX South Africa. Thank you, Pookie.
Guys, make sure to tune in. Yeah, man, follow Khule on all the platforms. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please drop your comments, like the video, share, and let's catch up.
Let's catch up. Peace and love.